talk about what you do when you do a motor control project. What are the procedures when you're ready to do a board? You select a project off the mandatory list, and then you go find one that matches that control strategy, right? Okay. And then you make your, actually the night before you do, way ahead you should do like 4 or 5 projects where you have your single line diagram or ladder diagram, whatever you want to call it, and your wiring diagram. You should do that ahead of time. Okay, you should have 5 in the bag ready to go at all times, because the board you plan on using may not be available. So you want to have an alternate path. If this one's taken, go to something else. So let's say that you decide on a project and you have your drawing made and you have your wiring diagram. Let's talk about the wiring diagram first of all. Let's talk about a simple one, and let's look at the uh-oh. There we go. Okay, so we're going to Okay, it's not letting me reduce this down. But let's say we're going to do a simple project like, did I start the recorder? Yep, sure did. Okay, so let's say we're going to do a simple project like a float switch controlling a pump and a motor. And we have a nickname for that project. I believe it's Project 15 in your book. If you happen to have your lab manual out or with you, go ahead and pull out Project 15. Let me hit pause for a second here. Okay, so what we have here is, this is Project 15's ladder diagram right here on our left of the screen. And you'll notice that the control circuit is in red, and we have a 3-position handoff auto selector switch here on the left. We've got a float switch right here, and we've got a coil right here, and that coil pulls in this contact M, and when it is energized, when the coil is energized, the motor runs. I left out the overload heater back here someplace, but overload contact, I should say. So this is a very simple connection, right? And anybody can figure out how to wire this thing probably. But to make sure that it stays nice and simple, we're going to convert our ladder diagram to a wiring diagram, because the wiring diagram is very simple. At the top of the plan, I can't get the plan to move. Now we're going to get all kinds of stuff. Do what now? Oh, thanks. All right. Oh, well, the recording went back on. Thank you very much. Okay, so the first thing is, we can see that we have a 3-position selector switch, and I want you to look over here in the wiring diagram template, and you'll notice you have a 3-position handoff auto selector switch, or at least you have a 3-position selector switch. And so now, if you're looking at the wiring diagram, you come down from line 1, and you see that you come to the common pin. Now up here, you have L1 and L2, even though it's kind of disappeared off the chart. And so we're going to bring power down to the central pin of the 3-pin selector switch. And you'll notice that the hand portion goes directly to the relay coil, although we are going to add a overload contact, but for the moment we're going to leave that out. We're going to go directly to the mag coil. You'll notice that this is a relay and this is a relay, and both of them have a coil in the middle. And so we're going to go directly from one side right to the coil. Okay, look at the other side, the auto side. Now that's the hand, meaning run no matter what. Hand means manual override on. Off means manual override off. That's the middle position. And down in the bottom is automatic. Let it run on the float switch. Now, our template doesn't have a float switch necessarily. Oh, yes, it does. Right there it is. So we're going to go over to the float switch. We're going to go through the float switch, and then we're going to go back up to the same position on the relay coil. Now the back side of the coil is going to go up to line 2, so that anytime we put this in hand or put it in auto and the float switch is up, then the motor will run because the coil will be pulled in. We don't have the motor running yet because we haven't used a power contact and we haven't completed our power circuit. So now, I just should have done that in red, shouldn't I? Okay, well, you'll have to imagine that as red, so we'll do the power circuit in red, even though it's supposed to be in black. So we're going to go up to from L1, we're going to come from L1 again, except now we're going to come down to a power contact. Now this would be a motor starter instead of just a relay contactor, but that's okay. We're going to go from there up to the motor. Now this is indicating a 2-pin motor, and we know that that's generally not the case. We're going to have a 4-pin motor in most cases, where we have to decide whether we're going to hook it up in series or shunt. But we're going to assume that we have just a 2-pin motor, and it's got T1 and T2. So we're going to come up here to T1, and of course we're going to go from the other side back up to line 2. Now, how is this different from the ladder diagram? You can see where your wires are connected on your board because you have a relay. You have a 3-position switch. You've got a float switch. You've got a motor. Line 1 and line 2. So now, even if you don't have a board, or if you get all your wires on your board and you have to take them off because you didn't get it checked, you can put the wires on the board very quickly because you know exactly where each wire is going to go. And the difference between this is, that a lot of times on our single line diagram or our ladder diagram, it'll show a connection, like when we're paralleling down to a holding contact, it'll show a termination out in the middle of space, which we can't do with our jumpers in the lab. We've got to actually use 2 different wires to do that, right? And when we draw the wiring diagram on our sheet, you'll be forced into drawing 2 different wires because there's no way of terminating wires, right? Or teeing wires, splicing wires. There's no splicing wires with our jumpers, and because of that, this wiring diagram template makes it easier to move from your ladder diagram to your wiring diagram to having the wires on the board. So this is a process of simplifying getting the wires on your board quickly. So if you have several of these set up ahead of time, and you can do that, then you could wire a lot of boards very quickly. Okay? Everybody, any questions on this? Yes, sir. If you're not using it, why would you wire it? If you're not taking wires to it, don't indicate anything. That's correct. Okay? And the only really faux pas I've made here, now you could have done this all in black because this is just your drawing. But I would suggest that you draw even in this one, I suggest that you draw your power circuit in black pencil and your control circuit in red so that you know which is which when you're troubleshooting. Because if you push in the plunger of a control circuit and the circuit runs, but your control circuit isn't making it run, you can isolate the problem very quickly and just look at just the red terminations or just the black terminations. Okay, so that's all I wanted to give you on this real quick, but I wanted to get it recorded so that you can see this again or hear it again if you'd like to hear it again. This will be posted on the Moodle website.